This video documents my 2017 visit to the Point Alpha Foundation in Gießen, Germany. This area was the site of the most forward point of the U.S. Army on the Iron Curtain in West Germany during the Cold War, the infamous Fulda Gap. I was given a tour of OP Alpha by Danny Chahbouni, research associate with the Point Alpha Foundation. Please leave a comment if you find it interesting. I'm going to get a little video here, Danny, of you.
Please, feel free to shoot footage. And this is the Blue House. We have 3 exhibitions here in the area. We have one exhibition in the Blue House. It's more focused on younger audiences. We do not have first-hand experience with the Cold War. So it gives a general overview over the Cold War and works a lot with contemporary witnesses and interviews. So it's focused on a younger audience. Then we have this border trail. It shows the configuration of the border during the decades of the German partition, beginning in 1945 up to the very end in 1990. We're going to see this in real life. When we drive up. And this is the OP Alpha. I think it's some kind of exhibition itself. We have a lot of tanks and big artifacts there. But we have 2 exhibitions. One in this barrack. It's focused on the military history of the Fulda Gap and the confrontation between Soviets and the American military that was stationed here along the interzonal border. And we have a real new exhibition that was just opened last Sunday. It's called, it's housed in this barrack here, and it's called Everyday Life. It's focused on the civil-military relations between the German population and the American soldiers stationed in Germany. And it's a little bit focused also on popular culture, how the American popular culture influenced the life in Germany after 1945. And it's pretty new. It's the newest exhibition that we have.
I think you opened that 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, last Sunday.
Last Sunday.
September 17th. Can we open this too? Check it out. We are in the state of Thuringia, but if you look on this in this direction, maybe 5 kilometers from here, there is the state of Hesse. There is a small town called Thann. The border was in some kind of bulk. It was called the Thuringian Balcony, because the eastern part, the Eastern Warsaw Pact, really came into the territory of the West here. So it was some kind of bulk, geographically seen. And you see, everything is surrounded by a hilly territory and by mountains and rugged mountain sides. But you have some gaps inside it. You have some gaps and that would have made it easy for tanks to advance into the western direction. And that's the so-called Fulda Gap. And this particular territory here is the so-called Hünfeld approach to the Fulda Gap. So you come from the direction of Fulda, from the direction of the east, across Hünfeld, and then you are nearly around Fulda, and then you can cross with big armies into the west, into the territory of the Federal Republic. And it's only 5 kilometers from here. There was the border in this direction, in a small town called Thann in the Rhön.
This is literally the Fulda Gap.
Yeah.
Right here.
One part of the Fulda Gap.
One part of it. Yeah. One entryway.
It consists not only of this territory here, but you have to see it in a broader context. There are a lot of big streets and autobahns today, like A66, the A7, the A5, important rail tracks, and all these connections are in the middle of these rugged mountainsides, and they make it easy. All these gaps make it easy for big armies and tank armies to cross into the west. And the Warsaw Pact recognized it and always saw this area here as their most important entrance to move big armies into the Federal Republic. And that's why the Americans stationed heavy tank armies on the western side. The 5th Corps consisted not only of the 11th ACR, it was the eyes and ears of the corps, but had also the 3rd Armored Division, a heavy armor division in the Rhine-Main area, and the 3rd 8th Infantry Division in the Bad Kreuznach and Mainz area stationed there. So heavy armored groups that would have to, their mission was to defend this territory here.
But the mission of the 11th ACR was slightly different. It was not defense.
It was slightly different. I guess you as a cavalryman call it scouting. In the German Bundeswehr we call it Verzögerung. Delay the approach of the enemy forces to make it easier for the tank formations in the rear area, like the 3rd Armored Division or 8th Infantry, to get to their defense positions, their GDP positions, to form a defensive belt around these mountains that are in the rear area of Hesse, like the Knöll Mountain and the Vogelsberg, and to form they're forming some kind of barrier before the Rhine-Main area. That's why the plan was always to build a defensive line right there, and the mission of the 11th ACR of the cavalry was to delay the approach of the advancing Soviet forces to make it easier for the heavy armored divisions that were stationed in the rear area to reach their defensive positions.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Let me show outside this window so you get an idea of the valley that we're in. It's just
Exactly, if you see it, it's some kind of gap that we are in.
It's a gap. This is the most likely route that the Warsaw Pact would have taken in the event of a ground war.
They would have crossed into the Federal Republic via a highway that is located on the other side of that ridge line that you see here.
Okay.
It's called Highway 84. It leads directly into the direction of Fulda, and it was built also on historic territory. There was an ancient street called Via Regia, so it was used even in the Mid Ages and in the ancient times as a road of trade and commerce. And then the strategists of the Warsaw Pact recognized that this would have been a good way to cross into the Federal Republic and cut the Federal Republic into half. Cross into the Rhine-Main area, reach the River Rhine and cut the Federal Republic into half.
And in even older history, I think Napoleon retreated.
Exactly. He did the same thing, but from the other side. He moved his formations, the formations of the French army, along this Via Regia, along this old trade and commerce road that is now the Highway 84, and that was the Highway 84 during the Cold War, and was seen as a good way to cross into the Federal Republic. It's right beneath this ridge line here, beneath these hills. Then you had the 500-meter zone that was completely restricted for civilians, and you had the 10-meter strip from the right behind the first fence. And you see on the right side, that's the house on the border. It's called House on the Border, the blue house, because it stands right in the former death strip. And if you see this sign here, right there, this brown sign, we are now crossing the former interzonal border, and we are back in the state of Hesse.
So now we're back in the west.
Yep, exactly. We're back in the west. And we're now taking the old military road that the Americans had built to reach OP Alpha. It was hidden in the woods. This road here was constructed for tanks. gap here. And B48 is right in this gap here. It's the old Via Regia. And thousands of Russians tanks would have crossed through this valley inside the Federal Republic. Americans have constructed it to reach OP Alpha. That was hidden in this woods. You're gonna see it soon on the right side. Here we go. This is the former observation post Alpha. During the Cold War, this was the main entrance. Here was the guardhouse.
This looks familiar.
It's the same configuration of these OPs everywhere at the former Interzonenbode. We had OP Romeo and India on the north. In the area of responsibility of the 3rd Squadron 11 ACR stationed in Bad Hersfeld. Then we had OP Alpha manned by the troopers from Fulda, 1st Squadron 11 ACR, and the 2nd Squadron 11 ACR stationed in Bad Kissingen with Camp Lee and I think OP Tennessee.
Later, I think they changed the name.
Okay, they changed the name. Oh.
Camp Lee is whatever.
And now we are at the parking lot for tourists.
There's the OP.
Unfortunately, it's a little bit foggy today. And this is the village. Geyser is down there in the village. Via Regia, the Highway 84 is on this side. And if you look through these woods, you see one of the observation bunkers that the East German Grenztruppen had built in the 1960s. It's right there.
That is, so that was an East German
Observation bunker.
observation bunker.
To observe the Americans here at OP Alpha.
Okay.
The border came from this direction and made a left turn. The borderline went then in this direction and cut the Highway 84 into a half, around 5 kilometers from here. And you see these red and white poles. This is the actual border. So the border fortifications that the GDR had erected was completely built on the territory of the GDR. And there was a small strip of land between the actual border, between the red and white poles, and the first fence, the fortifications. It was called no man's land, but in fact it was not no man's land, it was territory of the GDR. And it was strictly forbidden to cross on this territory because it was dangerous. You could get shot. You may recognize, today it's too foggy to see it, but on regular days you can see, or on sunny days you can see the Wasserkuppe. It's the highest mountain of Hesse,
Okay.
950 meters high. And there was at first American and then Bundeswehr radar station on top of it, and you can see it sometimes. If you strictly look in this direction, you sometimes can see the radar couple. The radome, it's called. Radar dome.
And there's a school group? Probably?
Yeah, that's the German-Polish group.
German, oh, that's the Polish
this is
visitors?
the exchange group from Poland.
So there's an exchange group of young people from Poland that's visiting OP Alpha. Heute. Very quiet. Very quiet.
You may recognize this factory right in front of that hill. that's the point where the 5-kilometer restricted area began. And then you had the 500-meter zone immediately beginning after the first fence. So parts of this town of Geisler were in the 500-meter zone, and there were strict regulations for the East German population here in that area. The actual border was right in front of the first American fence, so OP Alpha was really right directly on the interzonal border.
You're right up on it.
Yeah, right up on the interzonal border.
Here. In some places it was further back, but here we're literally, the border is literally on the other side of that fence. And then the no man's land, but it really wasn't no man's land.
No,
it was actually
territory of the GDR.
GDR territory.
There were some people who got shot. Even if they managed to climb the fence, they could get shot on the territory of the they were still on the territory of the GDR and could get shot.
And we couldn't do anything about it unless
Exactly,
they got across, got past that post right there.
And there were some serious incidents between West German border guards and East German border guards because of refugees that lay bleeding into this no man's land.
Unbelievable. They would lay and die in some instances right in front of the American soldiers' eyes. And there was nothing the Americans could do. Those poles right there, those white poles, that was the border, and you could not cross that.
Barrack number C was used as the mess hall of the facility, a mess hall of OP Alpha. There was also a gym inside, and today it is transferred to a cafeteria. So it's called Blackhorse Inn Cafeteria. You can buy snacks, beer, bratwurst, schnitzel, and things like that. They're all the good German food. And the former American basketball square that is behind it is now used as a beer garden.
Yeah, all the OPs had a basketball court.
Yeah. And there's in the rear area of the building, we think we can visit this after we were in the exhibition. There is a gallery of all the commanders that commanded the 11 ACR. There's also a picture of Colonel John Sherman Crow.
Very good. We'll have to get that. Check out this trooper.
That's a picture of what was taken in the mess hall, in the old mess hall.
Yeah. Mel Sanch, is that his name?
Yeah.
Okay. Does he know his picture's here?
Yeah. Send it to us.
Oh yeah? Yeah, that's a great picture, Mel. If you see this. Excellent. That sums it up right there. That was us. Barracks B. Some of you guys might have spent a little bit of time in here. Built in the early 60s. Multiple uses. Conference room, etc.
Yeah. The speaker who reads them is Gary Bautel. He's an AFM news reporter.
The Germans must be taught that war doesn't pay. They must learn the hard way. If you're friendly, they'll think you're soft. Don't fraternize. The German girl might be as
If you
good to look at
think
as
about
a
this word, fraternize, I mean,
she's been taught the Nazi way.
the US Army came as an enemy hostile force, occupied Germany because Germany had started a war, the Second World War. A devastating war that killed millions of people. They committed serious crimes. The Americans witnessed everything. They liberated the concentration camps of the Nazis. They saved all these death that the Germans brought to the people of Europe. And that's why it's pretty a wonder that the relationship between Germans and Americans soon after the Second World War transferred into a partnership. The non-fraternization order was soon abolished in, I think, on October 1, 1945. It was abolished. We have some interviews. This is General Alban F. Erzik. He's over 100 years old and he was with General Patton's 3rd US Army and he was a tank officer who liberated the Nazi concentration camp in Ohrdruf. And he tells his story and he thinks he was absolutely shocked by the crimes that the Germans had committed.
Nobody wants to be hard on the children of any.
They were not the enemy and as hostile as the Nazi propaganda had told the people. I mean, the official mission of the US Army was to occupy Germany and to not fraternize with the German population. But this order was just impossible to force the American soldiers to follow this order, because they saw the starving German children, they saw the women that had flown before the approaching Russian army, that were raped by the Russians, all the gruesome events that had taken place in the last months and weeks of the Second World War. And it's just a miracle that the transformation in the German-American partnership went as soon as it really happened. I mean, in the course of maybe 4 or 5 years, the occupation of Germany transformed into a partnership and a friendship between people, former enemies.
American people want to return the government of Germany to the people of Germany. People want to help the German people to win their way back.
The people, it was the first time that they have heard rock and roll on the radio, and it was an American radio station called American Forces Network. But deterrence worked. That's a historical fact. Deterrence during the Cold War had worked. It just had worked. All the war planning was done on a purpose. It was to deter Soviet aggression. And that's sometimes a little bit hard for a lot of Germans to understand. But it was the military presence of the United States in the Federal Republic of Germany that saved peace, that saved the peace in Europe.
Guys, the rumor of the roads and bridges being mined in West Germany in the event of a Soviet invasion were true. And there's a mine. It was under a manhole cover.
Yep.
And they were all the major roads of West Germany near the border. And the bridges were all mined. Conventional weapons, but there was discussion of putting tactical nukes in them. I don't know if they ever actually did do that, but that was one of the things that led to the big protests in the 80s. After I was back home, they had the big huge protests in West Germany about the nukes, and that was part of it. That, they were considering mining the roads with tactical nukes, but we definitely mined them with conventional weapons.
Students in Rostov, and we also have some pictures of participating.
This exhibit talks about the cultural connections between the GIs and the German people.
There were a lot of German-American sports events like the Fulda Marathon. Americans were part of the carnival in Fulda, the famous Fulda Carnival. This man here, Milton Gilbert, he was the army in the butt, the army in the barrel. He was a speaker in the carnival, and he still lives in Fulda.
Still lives in Fulda. Huh? Very interesting. You said there was something from Bad Kissingen?
I have to look it up.
Okay.
This is focused on Fulda.
I'm not sure what that is. It's a pass. I don't think I have one of those.
Here we go.
Oh yeah, I was there.
The LA barracks in Bad Kissingen.
Yeah, I was there just the other day, and I saw this. I don't know who's responsible for putting that up, but it's nice that they did. BK.
Well,
This, huh?
I guess it was put on this stone either by the German Bundesgrenzschutz, today's Bundespolice, German Federal Police, or by by a civil movement.
Maybe the city
Who
leaders.
think the city leaders, someone who thinks it's important to remember the American military presence at Bad Kissingen.
Oh, I saw that.
These are pictures from Bad Hersfeld, and these are pictures from the Downs barracks in Fulda. And as you see signs of the American military presence everywhere, and even the streets, some of the streets in the cities have American names, like the famous Glenn Miller Street.
Oh, yeah.
And we have a German-American German-American gym. It's a German-American sports ground. Up to this day, German-American friendship clubs, partnership clubs. They even have a West End Marshal in the carnival. During the Cold War, this role was occupied by American soldiers who participated in the carnival. And after the Americans left, a local carnival club got the permission to keep on with this tradition of the West End Marshal.
Very interesting. Nice cab hat.
Yep, the Stetson. And the
Stetson.
Civil War cavalry uniform.
Very nice.
Ceremony was conducted by American veterans. In every other year, it is conducted by JROTC cadets from Wiesbaden.
Wiesbaden. Glenn Snodgrass, John Sherman Crow, and the other men whom I've met. Cannot recall their names. I'm sure they'll be figured out.
There is a Blackhorse museum in Fulda.
The Blackhorse Museum.
It's much smaller than our institution. It's more or less focused on uniforms and things like that, but also a good museum to visit here.
Glenn Snodgrass.
Yep.
Is Glenn, you're an exhibit in a museum. You're a literal exhibit.
You wanna listen to what he has to say?
Is it possible to get that?
I don't know.
Glenn? Hope you can hear this.
You are especially doing a great job of keeping the legacy of the 11th Army
Is John Sherman on here too? Is John Sherman on here too?
Don't know that. This exhibition is pretty new. I don't know all the interviews with the contemporary witnesses.
I think it's important for German youth. That's me. I'm an American. I think it's important for everybody to keep Opie Alpha going strong for
Very good.
One of these reconnaissance helicopters, but it was destroyed in 2010 when the building of when the roof of the former motor pool collapsed
Oh,
due to heavy snow weight, and
you can't find spare parts for an Kiowa in Germany. So it was impossible to restore it. That's why we decided to buy one of these Hueys.
A Huey.
The UH-1D. I think it's one of the most famous helicopters ever built.
And that's one of the most famous trucks. The proverbial deuce and a half. And there's one of those things. I forget what they're called. It's a deuce and a half. And that, of course, is the famous American tank that was here when I was here. The M60.